doing today? Come on, put your hands together. It's good to have you here. I love watching that video, and what I love even more is watching you watch that video, because it's awesome. It's awesome because some of you, like, I can just tell what you're thinking as you're watching it. Some of you are like, yeah, this could be it. I think this is the season. I think this is our year. And some of you are like, nope, not buying it. You know, some of you are like, no, I'm not even going to put my hope in there. How many of you think this could be the year the Chiefs go all the way? Could be. Could be pretty exciting. We're continuing our series called Tailgating. And if you're just joining us, what we're doing is we're looking at the idea of tailgating, because we really believe it's actually a God idea, which is kind of cool when you think about it. Kansas City is home, first of all, to the best tailgating experience in the country. Tailgating here in Kansas City is the best in the country. I don't know if you knew that. So good. That's awesome. 11:30 is the best, all right? Just pumped, just ready to go. I love you guys. But it really is. When you show up on the property, it's just absolutely incredible. It's amazing. You walk in, and you walk in the parking lot, tents everywhere, barbecue everywhere. People are cooking brats. They're sharing their brats. I mean, it is beautiful. It is just an amazing thing. And what we've been doing in this series, we've been saying, why do we love it so much? Why do we love getting there early? Why do we love staying late? And the thing that we're learning in this series is that we're made for it. You and I are made to tailgate. Doesn't that just make you excited? Like, to make you excited to get the grill out, just get the food out. Like, we are made to celebrate. We are made to share it in community. We are made to enjoy life. And what God has done in our moments of joy here on this planet is prepare us for what will be the ultimate tailgate, heaven. Heaven, when you look at the Bible, is going to be the ultimate tailgate. You don't believe me? Let me read in Jesus' own words. This is what he says. Matthew 22, verse 2. The kingdom of heaven is like a king, that's God, who prepared a wedding banquet, a gigantic feast for his son. It's basically this whole idea of the Bible is looking forward to the moment when God will unite the church with Jesus, where there will be no sin, there will be no hindrance, there will be no disconnection. It will be us and God in the way that we were designed to experience him, and it's going to be a banquet. God's saying, I'm going to throw a party. I'm going to roll out a gigantic tailgate. Now, how many know God's banquet is going to be awesome? It's going to be amazing. Loving that enthusiasm. How many of you know it's not going to look anything like Golden Corral? Can we get a witness? Now, let's not, I love Golden Corral. The rolls, amazing, okay? The chocolate fountain, is it disgusting? Yes. But is it good? Also, yes. But God's tailgate is going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. When you think about this just for a second, that the one who spoke the world into existence, who created everything we know is natural, the mountains, the seas, the valleys, everything we know, the oceans, I mean, he created it all. That God is going to put on a party for his son? How many know it's going to be amazing? It's going to be awesome. Look what Isaiah 25:6 says about this. On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples. There's going to be people there from every walk of life, every background. It's going to be amazing. Sometimes when we think of heaven, we think boring, right? We think, oh man, we're going to get to heaven and it's going to be like this giant choir practice for all of eternity, singing with the angels. I'm going to try to live my life now. Not even close. The best moment you've ever had on this planet, in this life, is like a drop in the ocean compared to heaven. That's what God has. That's what God's preparing us for. So we love a tailgate because that's where God's taking us. He's taking us to a tailgate. So 2 weeks ago, we opened up our talk, and we talked about how everybody's welcome at God's tailgate. God wants everybody to experience it. God's will is that none should perish, and how the church should celebrate that. We should be like one gigantic welcome home party for people, connecting them back to their eternal purpose. And that's our heart, and that's what this church is about. That's why we exist. That's what we're doing. So it's welcome home. Everybody's invited. Last week we talked about how the best tailgates are made up of small tailgates. Arrowhead, you show up, and it's a bunch of small tents and people hanging out each other, talking to each other, getting close together, celebrating, having a moment together. We're made for relationships. So we talked about life groups, and we got a lot of people signed in for life groups. It was awesome. This week I want to talk about tailgating when you don't feel like life looks very much like a tailgate. Because let's be honest, there are some seasons of life that don't look very much like a tailgate at all. In fact, there are a lot of seasons in our life that look like a rebuilding season, okay? Now, if you ever had a team that's been in a rebuilding season, then you'll know what I'm talking about. A rebuilding season is when your team has no chance of making the playoffs, all right? It's kind of done. They got to start over. They got to get new management, new ownership, whatever. For me as a Detroit Lions fan, this is every season of my life. Every season. It absolutely has been. The team won the championship in 1957 before there was a Super Bowl. Since then, one playoff win. Exactly. Thank you for that. Chiefs fans think you've been through it. You guys don't know pain like I know pain. And so what happens is they say, oh, we're in a rebuilding season, and I think like the Detroit Lions have a theme song that we would sing at the end of every touchdown, but I think their theme song should be like a little version of DJ Khaled's song, All I Do Is Win. It should be All I Do Is Lose. Literally. It's just, I know, I'm dogging the Lions a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to talk to you about how that can be the truth, that can be the case in your life sometimes, can it? Sometimes you feel like you're in a rebuilding season. Like you feel like you're trying to do all the right things. You're trying to piece all the right things together. You would love to be singing All I Do Is Win, but you feel like all I do is lose, 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 no matter what. You feel like, man, I'm doing the right things. I'm going to church. I'm showing up. I'm serving. I'm giving. I'm worshiping. When they say lift your hands, I got my hands in the air. When someone needs help, there's an old lady, I walk her across the street. When they show up to sell me Girl Scout cookies, I buy them. And you're like, man, I feel like I'm trying to do the right thing, but it feels like I'm in a rebuilding season. It feels like I can't ever get my traction. Have you ever been through a season that doesn't feel like a tailgate? It more feels like rebuild time. Let me just ask you this. Let's take a little survey. How many of you have ever been through a rebuilding season? Raise your hand. Just all across this place. Raise it. Look, just hold it up, everybody. Now look around. Look around. Everybody just take a second. Look around. Now that's amazing when you think about it. Put your hands down. Let me ask you this. If we could just be honest in church, how many of you feel like you're in a rebuilding season right now? Raise your hand. Look at this. Amazing, isn't it? What do we do? How do we process that stuff? How do we feel? What do we do when we feel like, man, I'm in a rebuild here, and I need some encouragement. I need some direction. And what I want to do is I want to look at the Apostle Paul. If you have your Bibles, turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. If you have your Bibles, open up to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. If anybody knows a rebuild season, it's the Apostle Paul. He literally went through the ultimate rebuild. The ultimate rebuild. And not just once, but over and over and over again. The Apostle Paul did not start out as the Apostle Paul. He started out as the persecutor Saul. Literally, when Christianity got started, it had one major opponent, and his name was Saul. And anytime people would be gathering to worship Jesus, Saul would show up and he'd try to mess it all up. In fact, he was on his way to Damascus to do it again. He was on the road to Damascus. He was getting ready to go persecute Christians, and he meets God. Jesus shows up and says, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he changes him. He gives him a revelation of relationship versus religion. He shows him what grace is all about. And And Saul turns to Paul, and he becomes not only what was a persecutor of Christianity to now a celebrator of Christianity, a proponent of Christianity. He's the biggest fan, he's the biggest role model we have. If we had a superhero in the Christian faith, it would be the Apostle Paul. He'd be Captain Christianity, okay? That's what he would do. And he wouldn't have a shield, he'd have a Bible, all right? That's the Apostle Paul. But as he's doing great things for God, starting churches, healing people, helping people connect with God, he experiences persecution unlike anybody ever in the history of the world, most probably. Let me just read 2 Corinthians chapter 11. 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews, which was his fellow people, but this was a punishment that they would give out, the 40 lashes less one. It was a whip that they would get beat with 39 times. 39 times. 40 they felt like was too much. So they did 39 times. And many people would die actually after this. So one time of the 40 lashes minus 1 was enough to kill somebody. Paul experienced it 5 times. So that was the Jewish discipline and punishment. 3 times I was beaten with rods. This would have been the Roman punishment. Just for talking about Jesus, he's persecuted. He says, once I was stoned. And some of you from the party background are like, well, that's kind of on you, Paul, isn't it? That's kind of different stoned. Different stoned. In fact, we know that in this instance, they threw rocks at Paul so much that they thought he was dead. They were done persecuting him, so they just went back into the city. They said, we're good, it's done, it's over. But he survived. This guy went through it. Let me just give you a snapshot. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift at sea, on frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, danger from robbers, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers, in toil, in hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, often without food. Man, if I miss a meal, I get hangry. This guy experienced it over and over and over again in cold and exposure, nakedness. This is one of God's good guys. All he's doing is telling people about Jesus, and he's going through all of this persecution. It doesn't stop there. Verse 28, and apart from other things, there is a daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches. He has this great responsibility of helping people not only connect with God, but helping the churches that he started to make it and keeping false teachers away from them. This guy is just burdened by it all. And each one of these little examples has a story. One of the times when he was shipwrecked, we know this. He made it to shore, and he was a prisoner, and the Romans were going to kill all the prisoners, and he's like, hey, don't kill everybody. I think we can keep everybody together. So he's trying to make peace. He's trying to keep everybody alive, and he's getting firewood. He's soaking wet. He's drenched. He's exhausted, getting firewood, and as he gets firewood, he's so exhausted, he's so overwhelmed, he picks up the firewood, and as he does, a viper grabs onto his arm, a poisonous viper that one bite would kill a man. And you have to think for just a second. Maybe Paul the apostle has a moment of weakness where he's just like drenched wet, exhausted, trying to keep peace. He just looks up. Seriously? Seriously? I'm trying to do the right thing here. Have you ever felt like that? Trying to do the right thing. It seems to get worse and worse for the Apostle Paul, but like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness, it just gets a little bit worse. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12. He says, I was given, in verse 7, a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. He goes from all of this stuff, he's persecuted, and then he has a thorn in his flesh. We don't know what it was. Could have been physical, Could have been a situation he was experiencing, some type of difficulty that was ongoing enough for the Apostle Paul to say, this is hard. Now, this dude's a Marine, right? I mean, he's been through all of this, and he's saying, but this one thing, if I could tell you one thing that just really got me, it was the thorn in my flesh. How many have a thorn? How many know what a thorn is? It's something that you can't get rid of. It just continues to irritate. It's a weakness. And Paul, the guy who can pray for people, the guy who they'll take sweat, put it on a cloth from Paul's arms and go heal people with his sweat, he can't even pray for his own healing. 3 times he prays, again and again and again. God doesn't give him the answer he's looking for, but God does give him an answer. Let me show you in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. This is going to encourage you. If you're going through a difficult season, let this bring hope to you. It's this. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. If you hear nothing else today, and if you can only focus for 1 second, will you focus on that? Jesus Christ says to you in your rebuilding season, my grace is sufficient for you. I'm going to unpack this in a moment, but I want you to hold on to that. Look what he says. For my power. Now this is God, the one who spoke the world into existence, the one who holds it all together, the universe, who created everything we know is natural. He's got some power, right? Like he's pretty strong. He's pretty powerful. He says this, my power is made perfect. Oh, when? When could I experience the perfect power of God? I would want that, right? I would want to experience the perfect power of God. How is it made perfect? Look at this. In weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses. What? So that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, and insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. Maybe his thorn was one of those, we don't know. Maybe your thorn is one of those. You're going through it. He says, I delight in that, for when I am weak, then I am strong. He says, the power of God, the almighty power of God, is made perfect in my weakness. Let me just pause for a second and say this. If you and I could experience anything on this life, what we want to experience is the power of God. And what Paul is learning is this. It's made perfect in weakness. When you are weak, then you are strong. Here's the big idea for today. If you're taking notes, write this down. It's this. God gives grace during the rough seasons of life. Write that down. Put that in your phone. Take a picture of it. God gives grace during the rough seasons. He does. That's who he is. That's what he wants to do in your life. So here, I want to walk through. I want to give you 3 things to remember in a rebuilding season. From this passage, some keys to process. But before we do, I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to look him in the eye and just say, God is going to give you grace. Just tell him right now. God is going to give you grace. Did you tell him? Now I want you to look right back at him. Everybody look right at him. Real quick, look at him again. And say, it might look like a thorn. Just tell him. It might look like a thorn. It might look like a thorn. Let me give you 3 thoughts. Number 1 is this. God will use your rough season to make you better. God is going to use your rough season, your rebuilding season, to make you better. Now, before we jump into this, let me give you something that the Apostle Paul makes very clear in this passage. He says this, it's a messenger from who? Satan. Paul understands this. God does not create evil. He does not delight in evil. He doesn't want evil. He doesn't cause evil. But nevertheless, evil exists. God doesn't want you to experience it, but God will allow it to happen. Sometimes he will allow it to happen because in happening to you, it can make you better. All right, let's jump back to the sports analogy. in a rebuilding season, what do you have to do? You got to restructure. You got to get some different parts. You got to add some components. You got to add some people, hopefully maybe fix the line a little bit, get some good running backs, get a couple receivers that can do the job that you need them to do, some linebackers, maybe a great safety. You have to add. But in order to add, what must you do first? You must subtract. The key to more is what? Less. You have to decrease so that God can increase. That's how it works. And that's what Paul the Apostle is saying in this passage. He's saying the key to more is less. Now, we think the key to more is more, right? I mean, you'd be like, no, that's cool. I'll just take more. Thank you very much. I'll just take a little bit more. But let me just ask you this. We think more is the answer, more money, more fame, more popularity. But how many of you know people who have more who are a mess? You have to point if they're in the room. Don't point if they're in the room. But you don't have to look real hard, right? People can have a lot of comfort and yet not have very much character, right? Just open up the entertainment section of the newspaper. People can have a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean they have much substance. And what God wants to do is he wants to, if you're going to follow him, if you're going to be a follower of God, he's going to chip away at the stuff that needs to get out. He's going to allow evil to happen. He's not going to cause it, but he'll allow it to happen, and it's going to serve as like a little chisel. It's going to chisel away that stuff that needs to go. The key to more is less. The key to you experiencing God is actually becoming less like yourself. Paul, the apostle, experiences this. Look at 2 Corinthians 12:7. Paul had these amazing things happen to him. Visions, revelations, miracles. And look what Paul says. So to keep me from becoming conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. Now I just want to read this to you and see if there's a little theme. I'll read it again. So to keep me from becoming conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. Now this is the Apostle Paul. This dude is like Captain Humility. I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, he knows Jesus. I mean, how's he going to get puffed up? God knows our nature. He knows where we can go. He knows that. He created us. He knows that. He sees the work of sin inside of us and where it's going to take us. And he says, I don't want you to go down that path. I see what you could do if you had every prayer answered the way you wanted it to be answered. I could see where it could take you, and it's not good. So in order to keep you from becoming too full of yourself, I'm going to allow this to happen. The key to more is less of you and more of God. He's rebuilding. You're in a rebuilding season. Sometimes he's got to chip away at the stuff that needs to go so that he can bring the stuff that he wants in. I experienced this myself when I was about 23 years old, and I graduated college, started my job, dream job, bought a house. I just felt like, man, everything was going great. I was in ministry, loving the church I was at. I was single, and I was ready to mingle. I was looking for Mrs. Obremski. I was coming to church, I was worshiping Jesus, and on the lookout for Mrs. Right, all at the same time. And I had a great job. I was a worship leader, and all of a sudden I started having these vertigo spells where I get super dizzy. And I didn't understand what was going on. Like, it felt like I was on a tilt-a-whirl. Felt like, man, I felt like really unsteady, unstable. And I kind of walked sideways a little bit, into the wall. And it was just bad. And loud noises and dark environments made it worse. That was problematic because I was a worship leader. Loud music, dark environments, and so I'm literally having to stand like Elvis on the stage. Not to look cool, just so I didn't fall over. And literally, I'd kind of walk off the stage like really slow. And I'm 23 years old, and I'm like, what's going on? So we'll go to the doctor, and they do all these tests, and test after test after test after test, and they're like, you know what? The top neurologist in Springfield at the time told me this: your best probably your best case scenario is this. It's either a Berry aneurysm, which could be fatal, or it's MS. And he literally said this, let's hope for MS. And what I didn't say before, like growing up in Michigan, in the Detroit area, compassion wasn't like a high value of mine. Like the whole city just is ready to fight. It just really is, all right? And it's not known for its compassion. and I'm in Springfield, and everybody down in Springfield is like nice, like super nice. Like, hey, how you doing? I don't know you, come on in. So like it's a totally different environment. God was working on me through all of that. But I'm having to minister to people who are like, hey, come on in. I'm like, see you later. I mean, that's where I'm coming from. And I didn't know what God wanted to do. I didn't want to be a lead pastor. I didn't want to plant a church, but I knew that God, and now I can see that. And when someone like comes to the pastor to pray for him, what you want is for the pastor to like have compassion, right? Like that's kind of a good trait. But I didn't have it. God knew what he was going to do in my life, and so what happened is he let something happen to me so that his power could rest on me. And he was developing something in me that I really needed to have so that he could use me in a way that he wanted to use me. And I can promise you this, when someone comes up to me and they say, man, I just, I got a bad report back, or I experienced a sickness, I don't just move on. I'm like, oh, see you later. I'm like, talk to me about that. Let's get some oil. Let's pray right now. God's changed me, and he is changing me. I still need more changing to have happened, but that's the power of God resting on your life when you are weak. He is strong. God will use your rough season, whatever it is, that thorn in your flesh, to make you better if you will open up your heart to it. Second thing is this. This rough season is just a season. This rough season, whatever it is, your rebuilding season, it is just a season. When you have your sports team and there's a point where you realize, okay, we're going down, there's no point, we're not going to make the playoffs, this thing is like hope is lost. We encourage other fans and we say, well, there's always next year. There's always next year. There's always next season. We're in the rebuild, but there's always next season. In life, that is absolutely true. There is another season. Most of the time, the things that we're facing in this life, they are just for a season. Whatever your hardship is, whatever your difficulty is, it's for a season. But even if it lasts all of your life, do you know this? There is a better season to come. There is a better season. That's what Paul says earlier on in the letter, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. He says this, therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we're wasting away. I can feel myself getting older. I can feel life wasting away, yet inwardly I'm getting stronger. I'm being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles. What? Light? What? Light? No. Yes. How? Are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, that's just right in front of us, but what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, and what is unseen is eternal. Paul says this, you gotta understand the only way you can play this game well is if you realize there is an eternity, and eternity lasts a long time. It's forever. It's a long time. Let me just kind of demonstrate how long eternity is for you. This is eternity. All right, I'm going to just this is the timeline of eternity. That's like a million years. That's like 2 million years. Maybe 5 million years. And here is your life. I'm going to give you your life dropped in that. You ready? It's going to be really fast. Are you ready? Say I am. Okay, here it goes. All right, I'm going to give it to you. Here's eternity. Here's your life. Ready? Are you ready? Okay, there you go. Here's your life. Eternity. You. Do we really believe it? Do we really believe it? Or is this life everything? When this life is everything, then your hardship is going to be everything. And I'm not trying to diminish it. Paul's not trying to diminish it. He's just saying that in comparison to eternity, it's here and it's gone. Let your eyes and your focus and your priority be not on what is seen, but what is eternal. The promise of God is that this life does not last forever. The promise of God is that your pain will not last forever. Your heartache will not last forever. The promise of God, Revelation 21, is that he will wipe away every tear from our eye. No more sickness, no more death. Just us and God connected for all of eternity. It's just a season. Your rough season is just a season. God will use it to make you better. It's just a season. And then the third thought is this: in a rough season, it's critical to listen to the right message. It's critical to listen to the right message. You know, when you're going through a hard time, you're going to have all kinds of messages, all kinds of things people say to you, all kinds of thoughts that you have come out of nowhere. And most of them are going to look negative. Most of them are going to be discouraging. But you need to listen to the right message. Paul says that it was a messenger of Satan. The thorn had an attachment, and it was giving him a message. And the message of the enemy is never an encouraging message. It's a message of discouragement. Now I'm going to use an analogy that you probably won't like because it's about the Patriots winning the Super Bowl. But you guys remember their amazing comeback, right? They were down 28-3 in the third quarter. I mean, the Falcons were destroying them. Destroying them. There was 0.3% chance of them winning the game. 0.3. In fact, you guys remember the Falcons owner and his wife were on the sidelines just doing this little thing. I mean, they were loving it. They couldn't wait to walk out onto that field. And there's a montage, if you Google it, there's a montage of clips of Julian Edelman. He's one of the receivers on the Patriots. Little guy, like me. A little bigger than me. A little bigger. But a little guy. And you know what he's doing? He's walking up and down the sideline. He goes, "Come on, let's fight. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, we knew." He's all mic'd up. And he's like, "Oh, we knew it was going to be a battle. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on, Tommy, get him excited." You know, and like they're just going, and Tom's like, "It's going to be, come on, let's go." They're losing this game. They are not going to win this game. Even Patriot fans are like, "We're probably not going to win this game." But Julian Edelman was going up, "Let's go, let's go, no fear." And he says to Tom Brady, "It's going to be one heck of a story. It's going to be one heck of a story." That was the message that team needed to hear. And it changed their perspective. Let me tell you this. The message you need to hear is the message of the cross. And the message of the cross is what Jesus says to Paul in this moment. He says, "My grace is sufficient for you." That's the message. It's that God is enough. Whatever you're facing, whatever hardship, whatever difficulty, whatever overwhelming situation that you are battling right now, His grace is sufficient for you. He is enough. The cross. Jesus accomplished everything we need on the cross. He overcame death, hell, and the grave. He took our sin. He took our failures. He took our disappointments. He took our sickness, our disease. He took it all. And He paid the price. And look what Paul says this looks like in Colossians chapter 2. I love this. When you were dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made you alive with Christ. He forgave us all our sins, having canceled the charge of our legal indebtedness, which stood against us and condemned us. He's taken it away, nailing it to the cross. He nailed it to the cross. Your pain, your disappointment, your heartache, your thorn, he nailed it to the cross. Now check this out. And having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. This is our God. He took your pain and your disappointment, and you can say, God, I may be a failure. I may be a discouragement. I may be weak, but because of God, I am strong. I am forgiven. I am loved. You're going to hear discouraging messages. You need to overcome those messages by saying, let's go. Let's fight. We knew it was going to be a battle, but his grace is sufficient. That's the gospel. That's the hope that we have. That he's using it to make us better, that it's not going to last forever, and that the message of the cross is that he is